Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are two retired New York City police detectives, and if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. And it's again another Forensic Friday. We're going to be talking about the Idaho University student murder cases that we're going to work on and talk about the forensics. But before we get into it, I hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving holiday. I know Ed and we're stuffed. We had so much to eat and so much company and so much good things. And we're thankful for all of you guys. And we want to say special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and everybody who engages, our moderators, our replay viewers. We give you thanks and praise. And I know, Ed, you concur with me on this. Without them, we wouldn't have nothing. So we appreciate you guys. Yeah. Ed, how you doing tonight? And thank you for taking out the time after putting up Christmas lights on a big ladder. I'm going to show that picture in a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So I, as you know, folks, I'm leaving next week for another assignment in Indonesia. So before I go, it's a tradition after Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, I put up all the Christmas decorations on the outside of the house and put up the tree. So after cleaning up from Thanksgiving and getting up this morning, and a little rainy here in New York. After the rain went away, sun popped out. I got out there real quick with my youngest son and climbed up on the ladder on the roof and around the windows and put all the Christmas lights on the outside of the house, and also my Santa Claus and Frosty the Snowman and all that good stuff. And then my son and I put up our Christmas tree, and my wife went inside and decorated all the windows on the inside of the house. And now she's doing the tree with the finishing off on the tree. So busy day.
Busy day at the Wallace and the DutyRon household. My wife decorated as well. But listen, everybody's here to hear about the forensics. I want to walk through because there's still so many questions. We got a lot to pack in an hour here tonight. So we're going to be covering everything crime scene related, the evidence collection. I'm going to have Ed walk through what he would do. You know, for those of you who are new, there's a lot of new subscribers. Ed is a retired New York City police detective with the crime scene unit. He's a first grade retired detective. So he has many qualifications, and he specializes in DNA, evidence collection, weapons of mass destruction. And I have a long laundry list of all great things that Ed does and his qualifications. But we take up a whole show to go into that. But you're going to have to trust me on it. He is an expert when it comes to this stuff. We all are chomping at the bit because we want either this perpetrator or perpetrators, and I say that plural because we don't know if it's a male, a female, 1, 2, 3, or more perps. But we want, for the families first and foremost in the community, and also the victims, to get a resolution to this. And this crime is something that hasn't, this general area hasn't had a homicide since 2015. And Ed, we talked about it on the last show. You know, this is in itself, if it was one murder, would be a really, an out of the ordinary thing for this community. Now they have 4. So, and a crime scene that is described by very bloody and very expansive. So, I mean, I wanted to show a little bit of data here, a little bit of media. But Ed, I just wanted you to talk about some of the challenges that these folks have over there. And, I know we went over this, but for the people who didn't, who didn't join us in our previous streams, just wanted you to give a basic overview of what these folks are looking at over here in Moscow.
So as you said, you have a multi-story, 2 stories involved crime scene here, and an exterior crime scene as well. It's expanding into the street, into the woods behind the house, dumpsters, all this stuff. And it's, as tips come in, they keep expanding the work. Now there's even press reports today that this may be related to a serial killer. who had similar homicides, unsolved homicides in other parts of Idaho, that they're looking to make a connection now. But it's from what I'm being told and from what I see, there's large amounts of blood everywhere in the two affected rooms and areas and so forth. Um, and it's very difficult to work in scenes like that. You have to put on the tie back suits and the booties, and over time the booties will have to be changed because as you get saturated. I don't know if they had the blood stepping stones. Later in my career, these little blood pads came out that you can put into really bloody crime scenes to create like these little walkway bridges, so that you don't have to walk through the blood. So if they deployed those, they would have to be documented as being cleaned and fresh and, new and never used before, or if it was used before, that it was decontaminated and they have records of the decontamination because you don't want to cross-contaminate your crime scene.
Right, right.
So then, and then it's a slow and methodical process to go through these types of scenes now. With multiple stab wounds, that could be doing bloodstain pattern analysis. I know that we showed video of them all standing outside around a computer, and they were probably running a 3D laser scanner like a Faro or a Leica.
Can you talk about that 3D laser scanner for some of the folks who don't understand what that is? What does that do? What does it give for the investigative team? And once a perpetrator is in custody or perpetrators, how do they use that?
Well, first of all, it maps the entire crime scene in 360 degrees. It takes millions and millions of measurement points and creates a cloud, a raster cloud rather, of measurements, and it also photographs the scene as well in 360 degrees. You change its position, and then you change its height, and then you can merge all the data together and create a digital three-dimensional crime scene for the jurors and the judge to look at later on. And you give them, with the correct software and so forth, you give them a pair of goggles, and you can literally walk them through the crime scene as the crime scene investigators found it that day, without them having to visit the crime scene.
So it gives them a bird's eye view of how the crime scene was in the earlier stages of when these investigators went through it.
Well, it could give them a bird's eye view. A bird's eye view would be a top-down view, but it could give them an actual view as if they're walking through the crime scene themselves.
That's amazing.
If you're using the VR goggles and virtual reality goggles, you can walk the jury right through the crime scene.
That's fascinating. Hey, I wanted to play some media for the folks because, people were asking me over the Thanksgiving holiday, over, yesterday and going into today, people were saying, DutyRon, are these guys taking a break and going to spend Thanksgiving with their families? And we're going to listen on one of these local stations, and I believe it was a local outlet that covered this. But it says the police continue to work over Thanksgiving holiday into the murder investigation of the 4 University of Idaho students. So I'm going to play this real quick. It's only 2 minutes. Let's just let this run so everybody can get a good idea of what goes on in this investigation, what they're doing. And this is important for everybody to see this.
Moscow Police Department says it has collected more than 100 pieces of evidence from the crime scene and taken 4,000 photographs. Authorities solving this case say it's their top priority, and that's why detectives are working through Thanksgiving.
The Moscow Police Department says it is humbled by the outpouring of support from residents. Local elementary students wrote notes thanking police officers. At the same time, the department is being pressed for more answers, and many are wondering why the person who stabbed 4 young college students to death has still not been caught or even identified as a suspect.
We still believe there's more information to be gathered.
Moscow Police Chief James Fry is asking the public for any tips and clues that may help bring a break in the case.
We ask anyone with any information related to what happened with these 4 who are in our community, their interaction with others, and whether they expressed concern or commented about someone or something strange, to get that information to us.
Authorities have conducted about 150 interviews and ruled out several people, including the other 2 roommates who told police they slept through the attack. It's now been 11 days since the murders. Earlier this week, Ethan Chapin became the first victim to be laid to rest. The 20-year-old was a triplet, a lifelong athlete who loved the NFL and country music. His mother says the family is grateful for the support they've received.
The Moscow Police Department, who now carry the burden every day, not only for us, but for all of the impacted families, and the many strangers across the country. Your outreach and kind words are profoundly touching.
Chapin was murdered alongside his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, and her two roommates, Madison Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves. Police learned that Kaylee had mentioned having a stalker in the past. Detectives say they've been unable to corroborate that statement, but are asking anyone with information about a potential stalker to contact the tip line.
We still contend that this was targeted. We cannot divulge the information of why we believe that or how that is integral to this investigation.
And more than 40 investigators from the FBI, Idaho State Police, and the Moscow Police Department have been assigned to the case. Governor Brad Little has also allocated $1 million to support the investigation. In the meantime, Moscow police are asking residents to stay vigilant and aware of their surroundings.
So that's a good thing. $1 million has been injected into this investigation. And, you know, resources, as you know, Ed, in small departments, that runs pretty, short, and they could run through it real quick. So it's good that the governor is stepping up. Hey, I saw this question while we were playing that, Ed. Do you want to be able to, can you take that, if you don't mind? It says, DutyRon, can you ask Ed about the amount of evidence collected? Law enforcement stated that they have 100 pieces of evidence, and I was wondering if that's low, normal, high amount of evidence. And there's also 4,000 plus photos taken by crime scene unit investigators as well.
Well, I wouldn't put a number on it or say low, medium, or high. So far, we don't know what those 100 pieces of evidence are. I imagine there's going to be a lot of blood. I imagine there's going to be hairs and fibers, bedding, things of that nature. Obviously, any clothing the victims were wearing after autopsy removed and given to the police for analysis. Right. Fingernail scrapings of all the victims. There would be maybe there's some footwear impressions in blood. Maybe there's some blood prints, fingerprints or blood footprints if the perpetrator wasn't wearing any shoes. It's digital evidence. There's going to be, I imagine there's going to be tons of that. They're going to be working those cell phones, text messages, emails, GPS locations, cell tower pings, things of that nature.
Right.
So there's, I don't want to say that 100 is small, little, large, or medium. I can't say, I'm not there. I don't know what they're looking at and how they're making the determination what to collect and not to collect.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, and it's hard to base it based on just a straight answer. Like Ed, very good with that answering that question. We, the captain, sent in a super chat and said, how common are home invasions? Rare? Super risky? I don't think this is classified as a home invasion. It's obviously, classified as, 4 murders, and there's no sign of forced entry.
No indication anything was stolen.
No indication any property was removed from the location. And I did look at the crime stats because they're available online, and there's no rash of burglaries or home break-ins in that general vicinity. And it was nothing that jumped out at me because that was one of the first things I did when I did my little bit of investigation on the town. What I did notice is it is a big hunting town. A lot of people hunt out there, and there's big game. So, those are some of the things that I would focus on as an investigator, and I'm sure they have, is looking at the folks who hunt there. And I'm not saying that they're all, that they're guilty or that all hunters are guilty. Don't get me wrong. You have to look at the big picture here, and everyone is a suspect. You have to work from ground zero, from that home, that 6-bedroom home, and work your way out. And that's how it's done. But, Ed, I wanted to ask you quick because I saw a couple of people in the chat. The chat's flying. How many crime scenes did you actually process approximately as a New York City police detective in the crime scene unit, in that elite crime scene unit?
Well, hold on. I'll get you the exact number.
It's
Okay.
numbers guy. Penny
Uh-huh.
Donahue, thank you for the super sticker. Much appreciated.
Because we kept the running total, we were required to, so that we can give it to the prosecutors when we testify.
So,
So
so
hold
Ed is
on.
going through the figures right now, which is
Yeah,
good.
let me find it. Uh, okay, now, mind you, now after I retired, I still got hired to process crime scenes for the United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates, and a few places I've
But
flown
we're only
international.
talking about in your official capacity as a New York City police detective.
Okay, so here we go. 2,656 crime scenes.
2,656 crime scenes. That's a lot of crime scenes, Ed.
And I gave testimony in 398 trials, of the majority of which I was declared an expert witness by the judge.
Fantastic. All right. So just giving the audience a little bit of overview. Ed Wallace, 2,600 and change crime scenes processed on scene by himself. That's quite a bit of
No, not by myself. I always had a partner.
with the team.
Yeah, yeah.
With the team. Right. So what I'm saying is that that's quite a bit of activity. There's some folks that may be in this field and never process that in their entire career. Or
Yeah, and these are major case crime scenes. Now, this is a sleepy little town who hasn't had a homicide in since 2015.
2015. Yeah. 7
So
years.
it's a small little town with a small little police department, and they probably have a small little crime scene investigation unit. If
Right.
you know, just a couple people, and you know, they they don't get the practice that we get here in New York because of the volume of crime. Practice makes perfect, as they say. And unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives and became victims of crimes here in New York City that gave me my practice.
Absolutely. And you know what? In 1991, and I always bring this up, in 1991, when I was a rookie, you were, you had some time on already at that time. But
I was in crime scene. Yeah.
Right. So in 1991, in the city of New York, there was 2,200 murders. 2,200 murders in a 365-day period.
Yeah.
And then in 1992, it diminished down to, I think, 1,900 and change. And then we had that slow decrease and decline. Thank God.
Yeah, we got it under 500 in a short period of time. But yeah, during that, that was called the crack wars. That's when everybody was fighting over turf, who would sell crack where. And the two major precincts in New York were the 7-5 precinct and the 3-4 precinct. The 7-5 was in Brownsville, Brooklyn.
I happened to work there, by the way.
Yeah. And the 3-4 was in Washington Heights, Manhattan.
Yep.
And so it was always during those years, it was always a contest between the two precincts to see who would end up the year with the most homicides.
Yeah.
But it was ridiculous back then. I mean, I'd be on one crime scene in the 7-5 precinct, and I'd hear my next one go off down the block. I'd hear the gunshots, and then I'd hear over the radio from the safeguarding officer, 3 people shot, call for a bus, call for a bus. It was crazy back then. But it almost got so bad that we were going to put a crime scene satellite in those two precincts just to deal with those two precincts.
I remember when that conversation was coming out, and they were talking about where were they going to put it inside one of the ESU trucks. 7-5 had I think truck 5, emergency truck 5. I'm probably wrong on that, but I'm retired already a decade. But they were talking about putting crime scene within the 7-5 and embed them right there.
Truck 5 is Staten Island, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I maybe it was, I don't know, whatever, truck 1, truck 2, but they were right there outside of on the back side
7-5,
of Santino brings up a great. I was going to talk about this mid-show. Why is the police really don't put up the reward? They help to fund it through programs, but this is a small town police department. So I'm surprised that we're going into 2 weeks on Sunday. I'm surprised that there is not any reward money offered or put up by businesses or put up by local organizations. Do you find that a little off-putting, Ed, that they don't have anything for?
I wouldn't say off-putting, but I would say it's unusual.
Yeah.
With a crime of this magnitude, it's getting international attention. You would think they would have a Crime Stoppers program, maybe not at the local level because it's such a small police department, but maybe on the state level. You would think that the governor would step in and give a press conference and say, "Hey, we have a whatever amount of reward for information leading to the arrest of the suspect, arrest and prosecution of the suspect."
Yeah. Suspects or suspect.
Right.
They dedicated, and the reason I bring it up also too, and thank you for that question. He designated $1 million to funding
The
forensic
investigation.
forensics,
Yeah.
and so forth. Why not take $50,000 and start out some? I don't know. Now we're thinking outside the box here, but it is what it is. We hope to see something like that, an incentive for somebody to come forward, because listen, somebody knows something, somebody saw something, or somebody heard something, and they need to come forward and speak. Joseph Scott Mogen, who I've been trying to get on the show, but he's so busy doing all this media. He went on the other night with NewsNation in Banfield. So I want to just play a little bit of his, and then Ed and I got a bunch of stuff to show you, some presentations and so forth. But let me just share this real quick. It's a small piece because they talk about evidence, and let's just play this real quick.
I'd like you to walk me through how fingerprints in blood and footprints, if there are any in blood, and fibers that are found on top of bodies as opposed to underneath bodies can be so incredibly significant for forensics investigators.
It certainly can. And if, let's just take, for instance, if this perpetrator was ungloved, you have to understand that by the time that they finish with the very first person and they don't have a glove on their hand, either one of them, there will be transfer of blood evidence to the next victim, perhaps. Certainly, if they're utilizing the same weapon, which, has kind of been implied that they're using this kind of robust military style knife that they keep referring to. You're essentially, and this is kind of an odd term, but you're essentially inoculating every subsequent victim with the trace evidence that comes from the victims prior to that. So you'll have things like commingling of blood and this sort of thing, and certainly DNA sample.
Ed, when he's talking about the commingling blood, that's blood from each transfer from perpetrator possibly to victim and so forth?
No, it's what I mentioned in the previous episodes of, okay, so if he used the same knife on all four victims, which appears to be the case from what I'm being told from, the medical examiners saying that it's a single edge weapon, and it's the style of a K-bar, that once the first person is stabbed with the K-bar, now that person's blood gets on it. Now the second person gets stabbed. Now there's commingling of blood, okay? And then there's blood, you possibly have blood spatter from the individual assaults, and then that also the blood spatter can be commingled on the walls. You can have blood spatter from two different victims that are overlapping. Right. As he moves from victim to victim. Okay, so victim one, victim two. So if we don't know the order of the killings, okay,
and that's a sticking point with many people. Many people
Right.
want to know that. And how hard is that to determine?
Well, like I said, if you have this commingling, it might not be that hard to determine if you take if you find the right kind of blood evidence. For instance, if you have the two victims on the second floor that are passed out in their bedroom, okay, and say they're the first two, just for argument's sake, we don't know that, okay. So he stabs, they're passed out. Who knows? That maybe they, in deep sleep, drunk, whatever the case may be. Stab victim number one. Okay, who knows? Maybe he put his hand over the victim's mouth, didn't say anything. Bam, stab, 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 stab. Now victim one's blood is on the knife. Walks around the bed. Okay, dripping blood from victim number one. Okay, and let's just say victim number one stays in the bed, right? Then we get to victim number two, also in bed. Now, if he puts his hand over victim number two's mouth, now you have cross DNA samples from victim one and victim two on there, and then stab, 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 stab. Now, on that knife, you have blood from victim 1 and 2. And now say the perpetrator walks away from victim number 2 and then heads to the staircase, goes upstairs to victims 3 and 4. Now there could be a blood trail there from that bedroom,
Right.
and that blood could be a mixture of victims 1 and 2. Okay, so now you start to get a sequence developing if the stains are analyzed correctly. You get to this third floor, and you find victims 3 and 4. Now, one of the victims have defensive wounds. Okay, so that's going to play out a little differently. But say you stab victim 3, and now you have commingling of potentially three different types of 3 different victims' blood, and you have maybe there's another trail that leads to victim 4. Victim 4 maybe is the person that has the defensive wounds because it gets awoken by the victim 3's attack. Again, this is all speculation, but I'm just trying to show you how potentially things could be sequenced we can determine an order of if the blood is commingled like this. And then finally victim 4 stabbed, and now there's a blood trail leading away from there, and there potentially could be a mixture of all 4 victims. Now, again, if it is a K-bar, and it has a hilt, and which is a safety guard to keep the hand from sliding forward, the victim may not have injured himself that way, but that's not to say the suspect rather may not have injured his hand and created his own blood, but that's not to say he didn't leave DNA. If he's touching the bedding, he didn't have gloves. Even if he did have gloves, and there's this defensive wounds on the hands. So if the victim touched his clothing, or the victim's he touched the bedding with his face, or anything that was exposed, and his hairs could potentially on the bedding. His hairs could be on the victim, under the fingernail, skin cells. Who knows?
Right.
There could be
many experts, including yourself and Barbara, and also Joseph Scott Mogen, have said that it's really a small percentage of a chance that this perpetrator or perpetrators didn't have any type of injuries from this attacking 4 people in such a violent fashion, multiple stab wounds and so forth. So all of this evidence we don't have access to, and we shouldn't have access to, could potentially lead them to a suspect. Because I want to talk to you also about everybody's DNA, everyone's DNA and how that gets put into CODIS. We'll talk about criminals in that CODIS database and how people get in there, because I think that's important, and how many profiles they have and so forth. But let me just play the rest of this, Ed, and then
and remember, this gentleman that's talking, he's a death investigator. He's a medical legal death investigator like Barbara Butcher. He's not a crime scene investigator.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's let the rest of this play.
Like commingling of blood and this sort of thing, and certainly DNA sample. It's hard to imagine that some trace elements were not left behind, because this will in fact be a bloody mess. I've worked many sharp force injury cases over the course of my career, and it's almost as if they will dip their hands in blood and transfer it along, steadying themselves perhaps on guardrails if they're making their way up staircases, touching walls, steadying themselves, any kind of surfaces, and also on the other bodies where they're placing their hands. They have to leverage themselves many times. Think about it, Ash. If they're saying that these individuals were killed in their bed, then that person would have to place a knee, a hand on the bed, point of contact, in order to utilize the knife.
I have just 20 seconds left, but I have to ask you, Jim, about the locked door. These kids couldn't determine why their friend wouldn't wake up. So clearly they couldn't get through the door to open it and see the bloody mess that was inside. How would a killer get in, stab and kill 1 or 2 victims, and get out and leave a door locked?
Well, I think it may be an attempt to delay discovery, and it actually worked. It would indicate to me behaviorally that there may be a connection between the offender and that victim because they were trying to delay discovery. If there's no known connection, then there's less of a likelihood that they would waste the time to delay discovery.
It's just incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, the locking of the door, listen, Ed, you know this, many doors in homes, you know, especially bedroom doors, they have like a little lock on it. I mean, he could have just turned that lock and then just pulled the door shut.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility. But in many of these cases, especially with these college kids, they have their own rooms. They have key lock doorknobs.
Right.
Okay.
We don't know what kind of a lock was on
Right.
this door.
We don't know. But
Yeah.
in, like I said, like my son, my youngest son, when he was in college, he was in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath unit with 4 different students. But
Right.
each one of their bedrooms had individual key lock doors. So, you know, a little more security than just the push button doorknob types that you can lock from the inside. And then there's a little tiny hole on the outside doorknob where you can stick a little pin in there and then unlock it yourself. But anyhow, so that's new information about locking, that someone actually locked those bedroom doors to, you know, with the victims dead inside.
Right.
And, you know, the downstairs roommates, you know, didn't make entry.
Right. And so many times we see in multiple murders, like I've been on the scene of many of them as a patrol officer in housing projects and so forth. And like we said, there was 2,200 murders in 91. That was my rookie year. I remember one crime scene in particular. It was a call for loud noise. And what the perpetrator did is he murdered 2 people inside an apartment and he turned the TV up full blast. And the neighbors on both sides heard the TV, but they didn't hear the gunshot. The people were shot multiple times. And what he did, though, which was really odd, and this is part of sloppy criminal work, is he turned that TV up and left his victims inside, shot multiple times, but he didn't shut the door. So when me and my partner arrived onto the scene, the door was ajar. We withdrew our guns because we didn't know what was happening. We go in there, and in the back bedroom is victim number 1, and in the second bedroom is victim number 2. The TV the whole time blaring, and my partner went to go turn that TV down, and I stopped him. I said, "Don't touch it." And we just left it blaring, and we backed out because they were clearly deceased. There was nothing we could do rendering aid to them. But I was more concerned about preserving that crime scene, and we backed out of there. And we were both 2 rookies. So we backed out of there, and we were fresh out of the academy, and we left it for, homicide detectives and crime scene to come. So, this is just maybe a tactic or a ploy for them not to be found right away.
Yeah. All right. So you're right. That's a possibility, and it seems to be the case. Okay. So let's get into the blood. What do you think?
I'm game for that.
It is Forensic Friday. So
yeah, it is Forensic Friday. I wanted to also show that diagram of the house. Did you want to do that first and then get into?
Well, I tell you what, that last court TV had good floor plans of the house in that.
Okay.
Much better than the hand sketch that I think you were looking to show.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. That hand sketch. All right, let me just make sure I got everything up before we go. Ed, just going to look at the chat and just chat it up with some of the people. A couple of super chats came in. Heart Warrior Mama says, I saw a photo of a window screen off a window. Any possibility they locked the door after doing the killing, went through the window to get out?
I don't know. There would have to be second story or window because the ground floor windows, second story in the back because the ground floor windows, one of those rooms down there were occupied. Both bedrooms on the ground floor have windows to the front parking area.
Right.
So it would have to be the second story in the back because the third story has a deck, but there has no staircase down from there. Again, there's no forced entry, so they don't know how this person got in and out. And you're going to process all those entries and exits, doors, windows, everything for DNA, fingerprints, hairs and fibers, the whole 9 yards.
All right. Just
So,
take
folks,
a peek. I'm
so
setting up all the pictures. So
yeah, so folks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, since this case has a lot of blood, I'm going to go over a lot of the things that we do with blood at crime scenes and how we know it's blood and the testing we performed and things of that nature. And I have some photographs to show you some of the examples. So, there's been a big controversy about the blood. I'm sorry, about the reddish brown stain on the outside of the house. If I was a betting man, I'd bet a year's salary that in fact that is blood on the outside of the house. Not this. There's no oil because the house is heated by electric. That is the metal conduit that's there is for electrical. This house was kind of a hodgepodge house built in sections over time, and it originally wasn't the way it appears today. So it was built in a couple phases, and the that wall that has that potential blood on it on the outside is the bedroom where two victims were murdered, and inside that room, I believe it was the male and the female victims were in that bedroom, if my memory serves me correctly, and then so it's an exterior wall of a bedroom, and if blood is a fluid, and it will follow gravity and it will seek low points, and if the walls are the floors are not level, blood flows and could hit an exterior wall like that. And since you can see that the concrete footing, foundation rather, for the second story is right there, then what you have is a sill plate of typically pressure treated wood bolted to the top of the concrete foundation, and then your frame wall goes on top of that, and your sheetrock, insulation, and things of that nature. And it looks like the entire house was some kind of engineered wood floor, tongue and groove possibly, and then the blood will get through that, get down into those crevices, and in this case, if it wasn't properly sealed, or not insulated correctly, but sealed correctly on the sill plate and so forth, you could potentially get blood to come through the cavity and get out in the fashion that you see it. And it was photographed. I did see that it was definitely photographed by the crime scene investigators with and without scales. I didn't see them. There wasn't any other footage that I saw of them doing any other testing, but we would do a presumptive field test on that if there was any doubt in our mind that was not blood. Okay. And so there are several tests that we could perform, and I'll just show you a few of them. So here's one that we use. It looks kind of like a COVID test or a home pregnancy test. Okay, and this is the OBTI from BlueStar, and this is more human based. It does humans, guinea pigs, ferrets. It will give you positive results for that. Whereas some of the other tests, like this phenolphthalein test, okay, phenolphthalein is a carcinogenic material, so got to be careful with this. But it will turn blood pink. It'll adhere to the hemoglobin in the blood. This one, the OBTI, looks like this. Let me back it up a little bit. Okay, so the C stands for control and the T stands for test. If you get two lines, it's a positive. Now, this test was done on synthetic blood, and so it's a control saying the chemicals are working, and the T is showing negative, so it didn't hit because it was a synthetic blood. I'm going to do one right in front of you now while Ron is getting all the photos that I sent him in order. So I'm tearing open. Now, I'd be wearing gloves. I'd be masked up. I'd be tie back. So here's a brand new unopened kit. I just opened it. And what we do is I'll take a swab with blood on it, and it goes into this well here. And then I'm going to have to put a couple of drops of water in here, and I'll do it. I'm going to have to do it out of sight here. So I'll put it in here and put a couple of drops of water in that well. Now, typically what you can do is break the swab head off in a bottle of a small amount of water, and then right now. Okay, it's propagating across. All right. Now, these are expired tests that I use for training. So this one that I'm using, that is real blood that was on this swab. So what I won't do for science, right? A little prick of the finger, got some blood on the end of the swab, and I'm putting it in here. And I'm getting 2 lines. So I'll show you that in a second. So this is what a positive, oh, let me back it up. It's not really showing too well here. Okay, there you go, 2 lines, test positive, control positive. Okay, so this is a positive blood test. Now, this is the phenolphthalein, and so I'm going to pop this vial off. Oh, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these ampules, let the reagents mix, and then I'm going to put in a swab with blood in here. Now, in the presence of blood, the swab will turn pink. Okay. So that's a positive test. Okay, now this is field presumptive. Okay, this is field presumptive, and I'm going to treat this OBTI. Now you can see even better. Let's see. There it is. You see the 2 lines.
Put your hand behind it and we'll come up better. Hold on.
Behind it?
Full screen. Yep.
All right. There's the 2 lines.
Come closer. Come closer to the. There you go.
Okay, there's the 2 lines. And I'm going to treat this as field presumptive. All right. You send them to the lab, and then the lab will do their testing. All right. So that's one of the things we can do. Now, another test that we like to do.
Can I, before you go to that second test,
Sure.
say thank you to Will 411 now for the super sticker, $20. Dr. Ed Moskowitz and Julie says, DutyRon and Ed, I gave thanks at Thanksgiving for both of you and all you do for victims, families, prayers for these families. And there were several other people who I put up on the screen that sent super chats. Thank you so much. It's just when Ed's doing these presentations, I don't like to interrupt him because he's getting mad at me right now.
I'm not getting mad.
We the Captain, I know, I'm being silly. We the Captain now sends in a $5 super chat and says, possible that law enforcement has been too quick to rule out food truck guy, ex-boyfriend, and driver of private means. You know, we could be critical of everything, but just because they ruled them out doesn't mean that they can't be ruled back in when the investigation goes in different directions. So it's important that we understand that just because people are ruled out doesn't mean that they're completely innocent and that they have had nothing to do with this. So don't get caught up in that. And I say this because I know it to be true that sometimes people that get ruled out get ruled back in based on more information, more evidence, more interviews, and so forth. So that's how it happens. Joanne Atkins says, do you know whether there was a blood trail leading outside the house from the killer left? No, because they're not telling us. There may have been a blood trail, but we don't know that. So,
and nor should they tell us.
Yeah, no, that's stuff that we shouldn't know.
So here's another type of presumptive blood test. It comes with 3 ampules of reagents. So I put a little blood sample in here. This is expired too. So you break the yellow ampule first. At the bottom of each of these plastic tubes is it'll allow the liquid to come out, and then you push it down into the corner. Then the next one is crushed to black. Okay. And then drain it down into the corner. And then finally you crush the last one and drain it down. And see that? It turned pink immediately. And that's a positive test for blood. All right. So and that's another one.
Out in the field, and that that actual controversial photograph that was taken on the scene of the blood drippings down, they would be able to swab that and do that test right there?
Yeah, first they have to photograph it with and without scales and numbers, and then they would do this test. And if this test comes back positive, then they take a sample and send it off to the lab.
Right.
Okay. So another thing that we like to use when crime scenes have been attempted to be cleaned up is a chemical called BlueStar. There's another version of this, something different called luminol, but it's the same. This is the latest and greatest of those types of. So this causes a chemical luminescence. So if you can't see blood with your naked eye, what you do with this is you get a series of tablets, a series of liquids, okay, that you would mix the tablet in the liquid. You put the sprayer on, and then you document with your photographs what you see with your naked eye, and then you put your camera on a tripod and shut the lights off, and you take a time exposure spraying this chemical in the area where you suspect blood might be. And in the presence of blood, this will attach to heme and the hemoglobin and create a chemical luminescence. It means it's going to glow, not fluoresce, but glow for a short period of time under the spraying of that liquid. Once you stop spraying, the glow goes away. And you don't want to spray too much because you're diluting whatever blood is left after it's been cleaned up. Okay. And then finally, I want to show you one last chemical that we use. And this is called leucocrystal violet. Okay. And if sometimes we don't see blood, we could use this as well. Sometimes we actually see blood, but you think there's more blood there in terms of blood footwear, blood footprint, or shoe impression, or so forth in blood, or bloody fingerprint. And so this will help you bring that information out, and it fixes it. By that, what I mean by that, it solidifies it and kind of glues it to the surface that it's on. Okay. And you lightly spray these chemicals on, and it'll turn purple in its presence. So I have some photographs to show you. So Ron, let's just start off with the wood floor.
You got it.
Okay, so here's a parquet wood floor. And to the naked eye, you can't see blood impressions or anything on here. Okay, but I suspected there's blood here, and utilizing leucocrystal violet, I spray on the floor. And next photo.
Hold on. I don't want to show them all the other photos that we have. And I want to make sure I got the right photo. Hold on. I think this is it, Ed.
Okay, so now you see the parquet floor, and the leucocrystal violet was sprayed, and you see 2 foot impressions. Okay.
And what are these instruments around those foot impressions?
Okay, they're FBI foot and tire wear scales. Okay, we use them. They're very similar to the ABFO, the American Board of Forensic Odontology scales, just larger for footwear, footprints, and shoe impressions and tire impressions, things of that nature. Okay, so now the leucocrystal violet adhered to the hemoglobin in the blood and made it visible. I couldn't see it with my naked eye before, because why? This guy tried to clean up the crime scene. Okay. And his attempts failed.
And what is this down here in the lower left corner?
Yeah, there's some foot. You can see some digits from the toes and the front pad of the foot, but it wasn't detail enough. But let's go to the next photo of the actual footwear.
Hold on, let me get out. Okay, wait, and this is not the car. No. Oh, okay, I got it. Got it. Wait a minute. 2 more seconds.
Okay,
Footwear.
that's it. Yeah, show that one.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad you can see what I'm scrolling
Yeah.
through. Okay.
Okay, so now this is this is an overhead of one of those footwear impressions. Actually, it's not footwear, but foot impression.
Ed, before we go any further, could this be potentially what they're using to investigate inside the crime scene?
Absolutely. If there's any kind of blood shoe impressions or blood fingerprints, yeah, they could be using this to
I asked you that
enhance
because,
that.
I asked you that because someone in the chat was asking that. So yeah, that's this is definitely methods that they would use. So what we're looking at here is a close up and an overhead shot, right?
Of the left foot, yeah, of this individual. So there was no shoes, there was no socks, barefoot. Okay. So let's get to the next photo and we'll get even more detail where you have ridge detail that could be used to identify this person. And now you see the ridge detail here in that the leucocrystal violet in blood was able to enhance.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay, so there's potentially enough points in these digits of the toes to make an identification of the suspect. All right, so let's back out and let's show them the tile with no blood.
Right
Okay,
here?
yeah, right there. All right, so folks, I see this. It's in the same crime scene, and I see just a little hint of blood coming out from underneath the carpet. Okay, and it looked like there was an attempt to clean this up. So what do? You spray a little leucocrystal violet. So let's go to the next shot of the tile with the not that you shut it down. Yep, there you go. Now you can actually see the wipe marks that was used in the attempts to clean this up.
Swirling wipe marks. Yeah.
Okay, you see.
I want to go from. I wish I could do side by side because this is fascinating. Okay.
Now you couldn't see it before with your naked eye. There it is, right there. And here's the next after the
right
after the leucocrystal violet.
So we go from this to the naked eye to after the application to this.
That's correct. And you can see there were attempts to clean up the crime scene. Okay, and so now those are additional charges. But you can also start to see that there's an actual shoe wear impression here, right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And a little bit there too.
Let's go to the next photo.
All right, let me take this off.
There's no? Yeah, let's get to the other tile photo where we pull back the carpet.
This one? Oh no.
No, you'll see when we pull back the carpet.
Uh-oh.
No. So in their attempts to clean it up, they must have missed that little blood sticking out from the carpet. But then when the carpet gets pulled back, you can see there's more blood.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's talk about next. Then let's talk about let's show that wood parquet floor with the footwear impression.
Okay.
The floor, you're right there. So, okay, same parquet flooring that was found in here. And a typical boot tread impression that couldn't be seen with the naked eye, but after spraying the leucocrystal violet on, you get this shoe wear impression, in this case a boot, and then you pick up that whole parquet section and take it with you and bring it to the lab and give it to the footwear analyst. Let's talk about now the BlueStar. So first thing I want to show you is a bathtub that's to the naked eye, you can't see any blood.
Give me 2 seconds, Ed.
I'm looking at all the photos, so when you see it, go back. Yeah, let's start with that one.
You want to start with that one?
Yeah, that bathtub right there. Okay, let's make that larger. So the top photograph is the bathtub to the naked eye, top left. Now, suspected that this person used this bathtub to clean up in, and in fact, this person dismembered a body in here. Okay, and there were attempts to clean this up. To the naked eye, it looks clean, but you can see I shut the lights off on the lower right photo, put the camera on a tripod, took a time exposure, and sprayed the BlueStar, and this is what develops.
That's amazing.
Okay, let's go to the next bathroom photo. So starting with the, oh, you know what? Go back. The test tubes.
Got it.
Okay, let's show that one first. So, folks, this is a test that was done with diluting blood and using the BlueStar, and you see this. The dilutions are 10 to the 4th power, 10 to the 5th power, 10 to the 6th power, and finally 10 to the 7th. Okay, so now let's see the next photo. Now we see that after dilution to 10 to the 6th power, the 10 to the 7th power you can barely see, which is the far right test tube. So you pretty much the threshold here for BlueStar in terms of dilution would be 10 to the 6th, 10 to the 7th power, in between those two. And so that's what BlueStar does. It makes that chemical look. If you've ever had a glow stick where you break the two ampules and you mix it up and it glows, that's what it's doing for all intents and purposes. All right, let's go to that next bathroom.
I want to just say, before we go to the next bathroom, I want to just say, if you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are two retired New York City police detectives with over 20 years of law enforcement experience. Ed is a crime scene expert, evidence collection, forensics expert, and so forth. Please hit the thumbs up and share this video out onto your social media platforms. What was the next one, Ed, that you wanted me to go to?
Let's go to the next bathroom.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Okay, let's start with that one.
All right. Bathroom number 2.
Okay, so here's a mop, here's a bucket, and then to the left of the bucket, to the naked eye, you can't see anything. But when I spray my luminol, you see at the top of the bucket and to the left of the bucket, you see the luminol is reacting with potential blood that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Okay.
This was after a cleanup.
After a cleanup attempt. That's correct. Now let's go to the next photo. No. Okay. Now this is the right side of the bucket, and you see the top of the bathtub. Okay. And let's go to the next photo.
I want to do them again.
Okay. So now look at the top of the toilet seat. You see some blood there, top of the toilet seat. Okay. And then look at the sink. So the person
even in the toilet as well. Down here in the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then look at the top of the sink. You can see that the person was full of blood there, was attempting to clean the blood off, getting blood and water all over the sink. Now,
pack of Newport still present.
Yeah, this person thought they had cleaned up their mess, their bloody mess, but they didn't. Okay.
Wow. Even at the bottom of the cabinet, it looks like there was some.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's a filthy bathroom.
Yep. Now, let's go to the vehicle without. Let's go to shut him down first. Shut him down.
Okay, hold on.
All right.
I know.
All right, let's go to
backseat. No?
Yes, let's go to the back seat. Okay, so here's a back seat of a vehicle, and this is what you see with your naked eye. Okay, now I'm going to darken the location, put your camera on a tripod. All right.
Hold on, I got to try to find it. If I don't have this one, I'm going to be so mad. Because remember I was telling you?
I gave it to you.
I know. Hold on.
I thought I saw it, so keep going.
There it is. I got it.
Okay. Now go one more. Go one more. There it is. And then go back to the other one. Okay.
Okay.
So, and here's what you see with the application of the BlueStar. Okay. And then let's get the next photo. And there it is. Okay. Now that's not a permanent blue stain on there. That's it's wet by the BlueStar, and it's just chemical luminescence. And when I stop spraying, the blue goes away. Then I
Are
cut
these
that out.
actual cases that you worked on, Ed?
Yes. And
Wow.
some of these are other cases that I use for training that were given to me by other investigators. But yep. So we'd cut that out and submit it to the laboratory for them to extract genetic materials and get DNA, confirm the presence of blood, and so forth. So that's some of what we can do with blood, folks, and especially these bloody crime scenes. You have blood prints, blood footwear, or whatever the case may be. And we work that all out.
Hey, Ed, what do you say we take a couple of questions from the audience? There's a lot of people sending in super chats, and there's a lot of questions, great questions. Even folks just, I got a ton on Crime Time with DutyRon up onto the website. Can BlueStar be used for blood trail leading out into the woods or into the street? Or does it not work as accurately in an outside environment? That's a great question, by the way.
Yeah, it works better in a controlled, heated environment. Once you get into these freezing temperatures, you're probably going to get outside the range of its capabilities. Because I remember snow being out there, that it was quite cold.
Right. Let's see if there's any other questions. Hold on. I want to just say hi to Love Wins. I wonder if this chemical might aid in thoroughly cleaning a non-crime scene house too.
The chemical might aid through cleaning. What chemical?
In thoroughly cleaning. She's talking about the process that you use here. No, I don't know.
It's not used to clean. It's used to find where attempts of where somebody have cleaned.
Right.
I have other tests here. I'll just show you this one.
Thank you, Cheryl, for becoming a channel member. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you.
So here's another presumptive test that we can perform in the field. If we get a positive reaction in a sex crimes case for the presence of possible seminal or vaginal fluids with an alternate light source, then the next step would be to conduct this test. It's a seminal acid phosphatase.
Up a little high, right there. Perfect.
Okay. And it looks very similar to the blood test. You take a swab of your potential seminal or vaginal fluid, and then you put it in here, and you break the ampules and you mix it together, and it will turn your color in the presence of those fluids. It's the protein that we're looking for here. So.
Hey, Ed, somebody asked, how would they separate the killer's blood or potential killers from the victim's blood to test for DNA?
There's a lot of testing that's going on right now over the years. It's very difficult to separate commingled genetic materials, commingled blood. They wouldn't. What they would normally do is they'd look at all the genetic markers, and then they would get control samples of all the people that may have contributed to it. And what they would say is, if the genetic markers are, say, you have genetic profile for 3 people, and then you have a sample that looks like it's 3 people commingled. What they would say in their report was, these 3 people cannot be ruled out as the source of this genetic mixture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this brings to another good point, Ed. And this is confusing for many people. There's a question that the blood from the victims, which many news outlets have reported, including the police department, that there was a ton of blood at the scene. right? It was a very bloody crime scene, as their words
Mhm.
were said.
Mhm.
People were theorizing that the perpetrator might have cut himself during the murders, while perpetrating this crime. If the perp had a minor cut, and there were only a few drops from this minor cut at blood left at the crime scene mixed together, and this is about commingling. How do they go about collecting the blood evidence to make sure that they're collecting a sample containing the killer's blood? Again, you just went into that, but I'm just trying to read off
Well,
these questions.
you wouldn't know if it was a commingled blood with the killer anyhow. All you would see is a red blood stain, and
Right.
you would, unless there something specific, like for instance, um, if the killer was cut himself and was standing on top of the victim, a victim is on the ground below them or in the bed below them, and the suspect is standing on top, and he cut himself or
Yeah.
herself and is bleeding. You would have 90-degree blood drops that would be going down on the bedding and so forth. And if you have a trail that leads away from the bed, then you might say, "Hey, well, let's take a look at this. This could be injury sustained by the perpetrator, and look at those 90-degree blood drops." But it also could be blood dripping from the weapon, and then the blood that's dripping at 90 degrees to the surface that it's falling on could be that of the victims, not necessarily the perps.
Yeah.
But I mean, but now if the perp is touching doorknobs, is touching light switches with a bloody hand,
Right.
okay, potential, if they're not wearing gloves, the potential for fingerprints and commingled DNA absolutely is there.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed, for clearing that up. Just Vicky says, question. I'm wondering why there is no mention of K9 police units being used to any tracking. I thought K9 units were commonly used by now. Thoughts on this? Hey, listen, we don't know for sure if K9s were used. I could tell you this, there's been no news coverage. No news media outlet has covered it and said that they've seen dogs there. I have not seen one piece. Other than, I think early on, Ed, did we see a dog coming out into the street?
Well,
On
first of all, I don't want a canine in my crime scene.
There you go.
Okay, I mean, the hairs get all over the place. The potential for the dog to start altering the crime scene. There's several ways you can do this. Now, the person had to get into the crime scene from the exterior. Okay, you look at those points. If there was an item that was definitely associated with the suspect inside of the crime scene, then many canine handlers, scent dog handlers, have a vacuum canine scent trap system that they could deploy. They can give me that. I
Right.
go in, I draw an air sample into the trap, into the cartridge, and then bring it back to them. And then the dog sniffs the cartridge, never comes into the crime scene, and tries to obtain the scent that way, and
Right.
search the house, around the house for the trail.
And I saw a video, someone speaking about that cartridge and giving the scent, and then you and I spoke about it offline. Hey, somebody sent in a super chat a long time ago because I can't find it, but it's still on the screen. It says, have you read somewhere or heard, have you read or heard about a young man from Washington State incarcerated later in the county jail for over a week with charges pending forensic tests? No, I haven't heard anything of that. And, we only really go by while yet still today. That's the screen name, while yet still today. We only go by what officially is being released, not by, rumors or, something that might be reported by, an outlet. I don't like to go on stuff like that because it gives people false hope, and it helps to spread false rumors like wildfire. But thank you for sending that super chat in. I'll certainly look into that, and we'll see if we can get that verified. Ed, you got some comments that you want to highlight, and I got a diagram of the house that I'm going to put up courtesy of Sleuthie. So thank you, Sleuthie.
All right. So good morning from Dubai. So I want to just say to you, Kifaka, baby. Okay. And you know what I just said. So let's see this diagram.
All right. So it goes floor by floor. Let me just remove this and put this on. There's a lot. There's a
Is this
lot.
the hand-drawn one, or is this
No,
the?
no, this is professional.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, that's the ground floor. That's the ground floor with the parking lot in front, entrance to the right, staircase going up to the left. Bedroom 1 was occupied. You got a utility room and a laundry bathroom.
Okay. I'm going to put us on and change this to diagram 2. Okay, here we go.
Yes, Carrot, my dog has something to add. She said, "Dad, get out of my room. I want to go to bed."
Oh boy, that means we got to end this soon. All right, so this is it looks like bedroom 3.
This is the second floor.
Yep.
The staircase comes up from the ground floor in the front. Okay, and then bedroom 4 was occupied. 2 victims in there. The exterior wall by the number 13. There, that's where that
Blood.
reddish brown stain was coming down the wall. Okay. Then there's a step down from the living room into the back portion of the house where you have another bedroom and your staircase to the 3rd floor and the kitchen to the right. Sliding door leads out to a concrete pad patio. Above it is the deck. So you go up the stairs to the 3rd floor.
Where am I? Here.
No, you got to go up the stairs to the next floor plan.
All right, up. Okay. Yep. Hold on a second, Ed. Give me a second. I just don't want to dox who sent it to me. Here we go. 3rd floor.
So it looks like it was done with a little CAD program. Very, very nice little diagram here. So bedroom number 5 and bedroom number 6 are up there. Bedroom number 6 has the sliding glass door entry to the balcony or the deck. It's an elevated deck above the 2nd floor patio. There's no staircase down from it or up to it. So it's just a deck that wraps around towards bedroom number 5. I believe bedroom number 5 was occupied.
Yes.
So there were victims in bedroom number 5.
And that's it. I mean, that was just a good depiction of the interior of the home. And I thank you for that, Sleuthie, for sending that in to me. She actually emailed it, texted it to me, and then sent it to me on Twitter. So I got it in multiple ways. Let's go to the audience because we're going to wrap up because Kara's screaming and yelling. And more importantly, your main boss that runs the Wallace household is going to give you the business if you stay alive too much longer. I don't want.
Yeah. If it's funny. I go around the world and I speak to married men, and some of them just don't get it. They don't understand that we're not in charge of anything. We never have, and we never will be.
I get it. I get it. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. So let's go to the chat and say hello to some of the folks. Thank you to the replay viewers. You guys are awesome. Very instrumental in the success of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. I had a small clip that I was going to show from another guy's channel. He did a great video. I linked it in the description. We ran out of time, so I'm not going to be able to play it. People are saying, can we see the dog? He showed it on the last video. If he brings Kara in, things are going to get crazy. So
Show's going to go to the dog.
Yeah, we can't let the show go to the dogs. Let's take some questions from the audience. When Ed is here, it's important to give him the hour. That is for sure. We got to give him the big part of the hour. That's for sure. Did anyone see the interview with the neighbors on Fox? What if a neighbor, ? These girls were famous for partying? Yes, I played that. They said that they did it respectfully, though. They didn't blast the music all night long. So that interview was interesting because the neighbors didn't say that they were a menace to the neighborhood. They said, yeah, 4 or 5 nights a week, people were coming and going and they were having parties, but never to where it was, something. It was not a disparaging interview about them. They called them respectful. Schmitty sends in a $5 super chat. And she says, Ed, as in the Night Stalker case, would it be more difficult or easier these days to identify the shoe by its sole and find its purchaser? Good question.
Yeah, so there's several types of evidence that we can get from a shoe. The first one is called class characteristic. So based upon the sole of the shoe, we have databases from the manufacturers of the shoes, sneakers, things of that nature. Just think back to O.J. Simpson and the Bruno Marley shoes. So we can go through those databases, and then we can say, okay, this shoe is made by Adidas. This one's made by Nike. This is a Versace, or whatever the case may be. Okay, and then from that you can get the size. The size of the shoe. Then you can also find where that shoe was sold in that immediate area. Who carries the shoe? Okay, so then you can track down the store and then look through purchases of that particular shoe in their records. That's class characteristics. Next thing is individualistic. Now, the way people walk, their strides. Some people are, step on the right side of the heel. Some people step on the left side of the heel, and they create different wear patterns. Right. In addition, they create damage to the sole of the shoe over time. And so now the shoe goes from just not only being class characteristic, but also individualistic. And so when you create those wear patterns, when you create that damage to the shoe becomes more and more unique. And much like, in terms of fingerprinting, but not necessarily as a fingerprint, but and so then the shoe or footwear in comparison person can then do a side-by-side comparison and say if there are enough points here to match and say that this shoe appears to have been left at this crime scene and this person owns that shoe and so forth and so on.
Right. Great answer to that question. Paul K sends in a second super chat and is actually laughing. I'm sorry that we missed the first one. Has anyone thought the perp may have used a stun gun and stab simultaneously? I have said, thank you for that super chat, and I apologize for missing the first one. I have said that it's not outrageous to think this perp could have been armed with multiple weapons, not just the knife that he used to kill, or he or she or they used to kill these four innocent victims, but there could have been a gun. He could have had a gun, or he could have had, a stun gun. It could have been anything. That's the thing. We don't know.
But there would be evidence of that. And they
utilize it, but he could have pointed a stun gun or a BB gun, and he could have pointed any secondary weapon to scare them into submission, and use words like, "Oh, if you comply, I'm not going to kill you," or so forth. The Glare, thank you, Will, for the $10 super chat. Ed, based on your experience, could you give us an opinion based on facts made available to us? Do you feel there's a good chance the Moscow PD having a suspect currently or soon? I mean, this would all just be speculation on our behalf, Clara.
Well, you have multiple law enforcement agencies involved in this investigation and the FBI. Okay, so you have your local and state and federal law enforcement agencies are all involved in trying to solve this horrific murders of these four innocent victims, 3 ladies and a young man, snuffed out in the prime of their lives. So I think, I always get worried when you form like task forces and you have so many investigators from so many different agencies involved in this. The old adage, too many cooks spoil the meal.
Yeah.
So, I always get worried about that. Just throwing large numbers of people at a problem doesn't necessarily get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
But I'm very confident that a lot of evidence is being collected. A lot of evidence is going to be analyzed. If they put unknown blood samples or unknown DNA into CODIS and there's no match, then they can go into the open source DNA checks such as 23andMe or Ancestry.com and start looking for familiar matches and see if they can't find somebody in there. And There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes we don't know about.
Yeah. And this question brings us to that as well. Have the 2 surviving girls been polygraphed? We do not know. That would just be speculation and a guess.
Well, we do know from the press conference that the law enforcement said they cleared them.
Right. But as I said earlier, if they said anybody's cleared, it doesn't mean that they're cleared forever. They could circle back based on new information, based on new interviews, based on new evidence. So, and I'm not saying that just because they're cleared, that they're not going to completely be cleared for the duration. That could be also a possibility as well. Just remember that. It just doesn't mean that they're completely 100% innocent or not going to be looked at again. What do you got?
So he says all day GK. DNA can be done in 2 days. Well, actually, it can be done in 1 hour if you have the right lab and analyst and so forth.
Yeah.
It could be done far less than that, but most DNA labs take longer than that.
Right. Golden Fire says great information tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Golden Fire. And to anybody's super chats that we missed, it's not intentional. Just understand we try to keep the continuity of what we're talking about and not go off onto, down different roads and so forth. This is about forensics. This is a Forensic Friday. Honey Hush says, I adore DutyRon and Ed. Wow. Thank you. Joey Brooklyn is here. He's no longer Joey Brooklyn. He needs to change his name to Joey Long Island.
Joey Nassau.
Joey Nassau. Well, yeah, Nassau. Or I think he's Suffolk. Let me go solo because I got to show off the police off the cuff merch. This is courtesy of Police Off the Cuff. I got a nice sweatshirt for the wintertime. So Bill and Phil, they got some great merch. I'm going to be doing the same thing and putting out some Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed merch. So look for that. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to this great learning community. Sam, we covered it earlier. Why isn't there a reward money? I would anticipate that is forthcoming. That should be forthcoming. And if it isn't, I'd be very surprised. Miss Donna Marie, good to see you. Janice, everybody, thank you. Ed, I know you got to go. It's been a great Forensic Friday, an hour and 22 minutes. I appreciate you guys. Let me just take this question. Crime Time says, question: if the girls had acrylic nails, which are very popular for that age group, would enough DNA be able to be collected under them, being that they are so blunt? By the way, I did a super chat as well. I'm sorry, Crime Time, but thank you for that question. Look, Ed, you want to take that because they talk.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter about the bluntness of the nail. Just you simply touching me like that, there's going to be a transfer of DNA. Okay, it's just that simple. It's called touch DNA or LCN, low copy number. So absolutely can happen.
Yeah, it can. Ed, do you see anything else before we close up? I know you're itching to go. And again, we did a lot here tonight. Maddie Boy Sully is here in the chat. Angela S. She says, Ed, you amaze me. You are like watching a dictionary. So ridiculously smart. So impressed. I'm so impressed. Somebody also asked, where do you go to school? Where do you New Yorkers go to school? I saw that in the chat. That was a pretty funny one. Did you catch that, Ed?
Yeah, but I didn't go to school for this. I went to a Holiday Inn Express.
You son of a gun. Popeye's laughing. My African Gray over here is laughing. Seashore Girl says, Ed, you are so amazing.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Brandy says, you both amaze me. Thank you, Brandy. It's always good to throw a little bit of humor into these things because it does take its toll on you. You know, listen, we're talking about 4 innocent lives, 2 20-year-olds, 2 21-year-olds, Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Madison. Their lives are just cut short. So unnecessary. And, you know, we need to get answers because there's unrest in the community. There's talk about students not wanting to return to college. And you know what? I can't blame them. You know, These homes should all now be shored up with security cameras and so forth. But who's going to want to go back? Who's going to want to go back knowing that this person or persons are out there? Oh, shoot. You had one. Sorry.
Yeah, I had one up there. What happened
Janice.
to it?
I see it right here.
Yes, and if you ever get yourself a UV lamp, don't turn it on in a hotel room.
You'll never sleep there. You'll wind up sleeping in your car.
The car, exactly right.
Let me get to that
Oh.
last super chat and we'll close it up. Where did it go? Sharon Create says, thank you both. Is it true that one of the victims was not found in their bed? I don't.
I heard those rumors on the internet too, on various YouTube channels. I haven't heard an official press release stating that or anything from the medical examiners. It could be true, but I don't know. I can't say. I can't vouch for its validity.
Yeah.
But you know, if there's somebody by that wall that where that reddish brown stain is coming from, that could go a long way to establishing that it could be this individual's blood.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is. This is our second Forensics Friday. I think it was really great that you guys all came and joined us. Wait, there was one more here. Go Find Me says, hey, DutyRon, why do you think that they know? Why do you think they know it's targeted? Well, I mean, there's quite a bit of scenarios that would make it targeted, but what it shows investigators here, and you have to look at this whole big picture, is that it's targeted because if it was just somebody that went in there that wanted to just kill a bunch of people, talk about a serial killer, he would have cleared through that whole house. And obviously, this perpetrator or perpetrators did not clear that whole house because two people were left alive in there, and they were could have easily become victim number 5 and 6. So when they talk about targeted, these 4 individuals were murdered and 2 were spared. So there's the target, and there's a targeted crime. Hope that helps.
Okay, so we have a hotel cleaning person here. I clean hotel rooms, and my company uses black lights. Okay, hey, if you just seen the hotel I was in the other day in Louisiana, I had blood stains on my carpet. Immediately asked for another room. They told me it wasn't blood. I said, "You want to bet?" I got a test right here that can check for that right now. Anyhow, I got a new room.
Let's thank the Facebook people too. We're live to a couple of Facebook groups, so thank you. Here we go. Lee here says, "Does luminol destroy DNA?" Please, thank you.
Well, luminol is a heavy base. Okay, so if you dilute the sample with enough of it, you could potentially destroy with luminol. I'm not talking about BlueStar, different formula, but with luminol, if you dilute it too much with that heavy base, you could end up causing problems.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Ed. Becca Ramirez says, just became a channel member as a student of forensic psychology. I appreciate the videos so much. Ed, you're helping me pass exams. Wow.
All right, great. My goddaughter is also getting her PhD in forensic psychology.
Awesome. And there's no charge for this. This is all free. So welcome to Crime Time with DutyRon. Thank you for becoming a member. Santino says, are you concerned, Ed, that because so many people have been in a particular crime scene, that apart from the blood, the scene is compromised? That's a very good question. Thank you, Santino.
So long as they're practicing the forensic standards and they're using appropriate PPE, gloves, booties, mask if necessary, and suits. It depends on what they're doing. I don't like it when I see people entering scenes like this that aren't wearing full PPE. And I did see that. I just saw a bunch of guys enter with some cases and booties and gloves, no Tyvek. So we should all be wearing tieback. That's my personal opinion on it, and it's pretty much an international standard. You will never see a European crime scene investigation on the news where somebody isn't wearing a tieback suit. Okay.
Put that question on the screen there, Ed.
Yeah. Can urine be mistaken for blood in luminol testing? I've not urine, but there are other chemicals, cleaning chemicals and copper, that could give you a positive luminol test, and it'd be a false positive.
Interesting. Thank you for that. I think we've done enough here. We got to keep some to talk about on the next show. Again, I wasn't able to get to the video that I wanted to show from, and I have it linked in the description. His name is Johnny Law. I think most of you guys, he's a retired crime scene investigator. I made contact with him. He agreed that I could play parts of his show, but we did go over everything that we were going to go over. I'm going to link it in the description. Go over and check him out, Johnny Law, and make sure you're subscribed to his channel and subscribe to Crime Time with DutyRon as well.
I hope you folks enjoyed Forensic Friday.
Yeah, Ed, thank you for so much. An hour and 30 minutes. Thank you for so much of your time.
I got my forensic geek on today.
Yeah, and Run the World sent in a $20 super chat. We missed it. It says there's a 15-hour time difference between Indonesia and WST, 12 hours estimated. Ed, can you please fit in a show or two while you're gone?
Well, definitely. I'm bringing all my studio with me. I always do when I travel international, so I can, hook up with you guys and go live with Ron, from time to time.
Yeah, we're going to do the best that we can with Indonesia. And did you check into any of there was the earthquake and so forth over there? Did you check?
Yeah, that's not near where I'm going to be.
Okay, so you're good to go.
I saw something here that just caught my eyes.
Thank you, ATS News. Good to see you, Amber. Thank you for stopping.
So here, I don't understand this, but so brownish isn't blood, is it? Not necessarily sure. Blood can be brownish. I don't know where you're going with that, but
let's show the picture of the blood on the outside of the foundation again.
You got it?
I do.
Okay, but it's not brownish. It was pretty red to me.
Oh boy, I think my mouse just died. Lovely. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Hold on, Ed. Take over.
His mouth just died. Maybe feed it some cheese next time, and it won't die on you.
Little mouses.
Okay, can't give this guy a pet.
I'll have a block of cheese underneath the desk here, Ed. Okay, here we go. Mouse is resurrected. Here we go. Share screen. All right, there it is.
It looks pretty red to me. Can you zoom in on that?
Hold on. I'm going to try to figure that one out. Let me go full screen with it. For some reason, this photo, it will not let me zoom in on it.
That looks pretty red to me. And you got some coming over the top of the pipe, too.
Oh, here we go.
And it reconnects down below. And
yeah, see this?
Our friend John brought that out on his show as well.
So this, and I've been to myself hundreds of crime scenes in person, first officer on the scene, all too many times, and I've seen not outside of the house, but I've seen inside on walls. And this, I mean, if I was a betting man, I would bet my pension on it. And this is not a pipe that would deliver oil, by the way. This is electrical in here.
Hey, Ron, how much are 20 memberships to our family here?
I don't know why.
Because I'll bet 20 memberships that it's blood.
Wow. All right. Well, I might as well just send them now. Should I send 20 memberships?
I'm saying that it is blood, and so you wouldn't have to send it. But anyhow, go ahead, send it.
No, but I would still like to send 20 memberships. Hey, guys, if you, look, Sleuthie is saying it's blood. Hey, all right, so let's do this. By a show of hands in the chat, press a 1 if you feel that this is blood that we're looking at here, and press a 2 if you feel it's not. And don't be afraid to press a 2 if you feel it's not. But I go with Ed Wallace, who has responded to how many thousand crime scenes, Ed?
I gave you the number 2,639 or whatever it was.
2,600 and change.
That's it.
I'm just looking at the chat. Let's look at this.
You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yeah. I think that for sure is blood. All right, Ed, thank you so much for hanging out with us here tonight. The chat has been great. There's been so many great questions, and this is what's great about YouTube. After the live stream is over, you can continue the conversation with myself and Ed Wallace by leaving us a comment down below. Let us know. Do you think that that's blood? Do you think it's not? Do you any questions that you might have? Ed is always scanning the chat, and he scans the questions after the conversation is over here, and that's what's great. So welcome aboard to all the new subscribers. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we're going to continue to follow this case. I want to talk to I want to try to get an edged weapon specialist. Ed, that's my next thing. For another show in the near future, I want to get someone who specializes in edged weapons. And I reached out to my good friend John Correa from he has a YouTube channel where he goes over scenarios of attacks. And he did tentatively reach back out to me, but he is very busy. He's got like 4 million subscribers on YouTube, and he would be a perfect guest to come and talk about edged weapons. So that's the next thing I'm going to try to do. Ed, you see anything? I see you smiling.
No, I'm just looking at all the ones and all the jokes that are going on back here.
Good.
Okay. Quack,
All right.
quack, quack.
Yeah, somebody's saying I need to see proof. I need to see more photos of that blood, of that alleged blood. I don't think that there's many more of the photos. There is another photo, says sandwich. What kind of sandwich? What kind of sandwich do you like? Sandwich.
It's Thanksgiving.
We
got plenty of turkey.
Turkey for everybody. All right, guys. Listen, as we like to end these, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. But especially these families of the 4 victims. We send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes, and everybody and anybody that's going through it in the Moscow, Idaho community and surroundings. It's not an easy thing to go through. I send the men and women from Ed and I of law enforcement strength too, because they need it. They need our support. They need our we need to get behind them, So the last super chat from Cheryl says, Ed Wallace, that was a party house with a lot of DNA everywhere. Do you think it'll be easy to determine the killer's DNA? A redundant question, but a very good one, Cheryl. Thank you.
Again, it has to be a targeted assessment of what's the evidence being collected and what's probative and not probative. Obviously, if there's a bloody handprint on the wall, and it's going upstairs, and none of the victims did this, so you would have to assume that it's the suspect that did this, and therefore there should be commingling of the DNA there.
Let me give the 20 memberships right now. Everybody, please subscribe. I forgot that I promised that. So I'm a man of my word, even though Ed was saying that I wasn't going to have to do this, but I'm going to do it right now. Hold on. Memberships. There they are. All right. Who wants a membership? Put a 1 in the chat. If you want 20 of them, it's $100, Ed. Thanks a lot. So let's do it. 20 memberships coming. Press a 1 in the chat if you want 20. If you want a chance to win, make sure you have memberships enabled on your channel. You have to accept gifted memberships. So make sure that's. I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds to make sure it's gifted. Make sure you can accept it. And Ed, you got the thing? You got it?
Oh no, I'll get it.
Come on, Ed.
All right. Okay.
Sick. Oh, hold on. Ed doesn't have it.
Oh, hell no.
Pull it over, Ed. Hold on.
What are you people?
On dope?
All right. You got it, Ed? Boom. $20 gifted. Let's see who got him. Honey Hush got one. What happened, Ed? Something break? Sky was gifted a membership. I Want Heart to Touch was gifted a membership. A bunch of people. Nicole Capone. Who else? Cat Pat. Beauty Biz Elite. Awesome. All right, cool. We sent 20. There we go. All right, listen, everyone, have a great weekend. We're going to be back with, hey, listen, if anything develops in any of these cases, we will be back covering them. But this was Friday night, Forensics Friday with Ed Wallace. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for hitting that like button on your way out the door. Ed, what do you got for the troops?
You know, my usual, folks, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Amen to that. And anybody who noticed something different about the intro, our intro now includes Ed Wallace. Let me know down below in the chat if you recognized and understood that. And guess what? On our way out, the outro is going to include a new security team member. Kara is going to be included there. So thank you guys for watching. Peace and good night from New York.